We are getting very close now to the close of the markets today here on the Market Day Report. Remember, we've got special programming on the way here in just a little bit also as we wrap the day up. All right, first, let's get to the markets. That corn market still kind of hanging in here and trading just about anywhere from a half to 3/4 to 1 penny higher. March corn up 3/4, $3.52. Over to the soybean market, it's January up 1 at $9.49 3/4. March Chicago wheat down 1 1/4 now at $4.25 3/4. March Kansas City wheat down 1 1/2 at $4.22 3/4. March Minneapolis wheat 6.14 1/4. That's down 2 3/4. And March cotton down 2 at 77.92. Scott Gecas at the edge of the trading floor with longleaf trading. Scott, I tell you, this it's got to be getting pretty quiet there on the floor of the trade.
Oh, yeah, and it's been quiet since Wednesday. So you're seeing a lot of people just taking some time off, going with their family for the holidays and stuff like that. So, you know, it's been a slow trade for pretty much all week.
Could there be any pent-up energy in this market when the market resumes then on Tuesday at all? Or is it just going to be a little bit dependent on what the forecast is and the weather conditions in South America?
Yeah, everything is focused on all the weather in South America. You know, you're seeing a lot more rain than expected, so that is driving prices a little bit lower. You know, when I was on here on Monday, we were talking about the soybean market around that 960 level. As soon as it broke that, it was just a free fall, and you've been seeing that all week. So it was very interesting, though, because we did see the open interest in the 940 puts explode within the last, few days. So we're not testing it. We still got a little bit ways to go to around 940, but the market is about to close soon. So we'll see what happens.
So are you thinking that we do have some pretty decent support in here now at 940, Andres?
Yeah, the 940 level is pretty solid right there. If we break 940, it could, slide all the way to 920, 900. So, that would be very unexpected, but we'll see what happens next week.
And a lot of that's going to depend on that weather forecast in South America. I know that some of the early forecasts were calling for maybe some drier conditions in the latter part of January, but I think the near-term forecast was actually calling for maybe just a little bit of rain here over the next week or so.
Yeah, and again, it's all going to be focused on, how much rain is it actually going to fall. So we'll see what happens. The
wheat market came back here just a little bit today off of some of its earlier highs for this week. Not really losing a whole lot on that Chicago wheat, down 1 1/4 there at $4.25. But we've really put quite a few pennies back on this wheat market over the last week.
Yeah, the wheat market, the export numbers came in about 35% higher for the year. I mean, it's the highest it's been all year. One of the things that stand out with the wheat market is the German winter wheat is the lowest area planted since 2012-13 season. So we still remain bullish, above 420.
That's interesting, because also we're going to see some of the lowest planted acres here in the United States for a second row in the year as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, that is, driving prices a little bit higher, at least steady. So
is this a case of low prices cure low prices then?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. So
okay,
yeah.
All right. Scott Gecas here with us and with Longleaf Trading. And Scott, when we come back, we're going to talk about the livestock market. Boy, there's a lot of information there. We'll do that next here on the Market Day Report. Those cattle on feed numbers out just a little bit ago, and briefly we'll go over those, and then we're going to get analysis. First, let's look at the live cattle market here as we get closer and closer to the end of the trade today. Right now it's February, down $1, 118.68. April down $1.16 at 119.42. It just changed right there. Over in the feeder cattle, it's January down 77 at 142.15. March down 120 at 139.20. February hogs up $1, 69.58. April hogs up $1.14 at 74.22. I want to go back here to the feeder cattle board right quick and stop here and take a closer look at these numbers here. January feeders, as we mentioned, down 77, but you go out to the April, May, and August feeder cattle. We're down over $1 for the live cattle market now. We've been watching this with a lot of interest because of that cattle on feed report. And by the way, while we're on that topic, The USDA says on-feed numbers 108. The average trade estimate was 106.7. Placements at 114. Average trade estimates were 105.7. Marketing's at 103, and that came in right in line with some of the trade estimates. So let's bring back Scott Gecas here with us. And Scott, first of all, these numbers here pretty bearish if you look at that placement number, much under what the trade was expecting, but some of that could be due to a lot of those cattle came off of that pasture ground that was starting to get kind of dry, that wheat pasture, and going back into the lots.
Yeah, with the cattle market, the feed report came out, like you said, it did come in a little bit bearish. The market was actually expecting the report to come in a much lower, but the higher weights are still a concern. They're at the highest for the year level. The market is a little bit oversold. The cattle market needs to hold 118.
Interesting. So where do you see things needing to be held over here on this feeder cattle market? Because some were saying we've got to hold in and around 140. We've already had one contract fall below that 140 by just a little bit. And what's it going to take to hold 140?
Well, we'll see what happens. The weather's going to be a factor. As you guys were saying before we came on, expected a cold, Christmas Day. So if the weather starts getting colder, that should be able to put some little bit of support in the cattle market. Yeah.
Let's also talk about the hogs. While we're talking about weights also, those hog weights have slowly been coming back here just a little bit. Now we've got a hogs and pigs report, and I'll quote some of these numbers here. Hogs and pigs report, all hogs and pigs 102%, which was just under the average estimate of 102.3. Kept for breeding 101, and that was just slightly higher than the 100.9. And then that marketing's at 102, which was just slightly underneath that 102.2. And so now we're seeing maybe a little bit of strength here on the futures going into the close. These weights are starting to come off. Could this be a green light for hog producers going into 2018?
Yeah, it looks like it is at that seasonal peak. It's a second decline in the weekly weights. So, that is sparking a little bit more, bullish tone to the market. The cutout values were a little bit higher in yesterday's report. If the market can close above 70, we're extremely bullish. There's a large gap to fill all the way up to 80.
All right. Scott Gecas here with us. Scott, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and also to everyone there. And also, we look forward to you joining us tonight for the Rural Evening News.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
All right, thank you very much. And let's check those cutouts real quick before we wrap things up, the beef cutouts and the pork cutouts. The beef here today, mostly higher. Choice up 98 cents, 199.10. The select's up 97 at 187.84. Pork cutouts today, also mostly higher. Carcasses down 4. Loins up 41, hams up 64. The bellies up 52 cents.
All right, thank you once again, John. Appreciate it.